The objectives of this video are to understand the difference between the independent variable and the dependent variable, and learn how to draw a scatter plot. Correlation refers to the existence of a relationship between two variables. When data is collected on two numerical or quantitative variables in order to determine if there is correlation, the researcher will designate one of the variables as the independent variable and the other as the dependent variable. The independent variable is the variable that can be controlled or manipulated. The dependent variable is the variable that cannot be controlled or manipulated. For example, it is reasonable to assume that a relationship exists between the number of hours a student spends studying and that student's grade point average, or GPA. A student can control the number of hours that he or she spends studying. So in this case, we would declare the number of hours spent studying to be the independent variable and is designated as the X variable. It is a natural assumption that a student's GPA depends, to a certain extent, on the number of hours the student spends studying. So the GPA would be declared as the dependent variable and is designated as the Y variable. The table shows the number of hours spent studying per week and the GPA for a sample of 17 students. If we plot these correlated variable values as ordered pairs on a graph, the graph would be called a scatter plot. We will begin by labeling the horizontal axis as the number of hours spent studying per week and the vertical axis as GPA. Now begin by plotting the ordered pair 22, 3.85. This would correspond to a student who spent 22 hours per week studying and has a GPA of 3.85. Then the next ordered pair, 22, 3.72, would correspond to another student who spends 22 hours per week studying and has a GPA of 3.72. And then continue 21, 3.61, 20, 3.28, and proceed in this way until the entire list of ordered pairs is plotted on the graph. This scattered group of dots is what we refer to as a scatter plot. The independent variable is also sometimes referred to as the explanatory variable, and the dependent variable is also called the response variable. But the determination of the X, or explanatory variable, and Y, or response variable, is not always clear-cut and is sometimes an arbitrary decision. For example, if a researcher measured the radius and ulna bones in the forearms of a sample of humans, there would certainly exist a strong positive relationship between the two variables. However, neither variable can be controlled, nor can it be determined that the value of one of the variables depends on the value of the other. So the researcher would arbitrarily designate one as the X variable and the other as the Y variable. In this video, we learned how to determine the difference between the independent variable and the dependent variable whenever possible. We also learned how to draw a scatter plot.